Good afternoon, good morning. Thank you guys for joining us for Choosing the Right Path, PeopleSoft 9.2 versus the Cloud, presented by Elire. For the folks that are just joining, there is a poll question up for you guys. We're currently asking what version of PeopleSoft are you currently using? Pre-9.2 version, currently upgrading to 9.2, or 9.2. So please take a few minutes to answer that question, and we'll go over those results shortly. For anybody, for you guys that haven't joined a Quest webinar, your phone lines are muted. So if you have any questions, please submit them through the question module, and we'll take some time at the end to answer any questions that have come through. Also, want to let you guys know we are recording this session. We will get the links out to you guys so you guys can access it as well. Saw a few more folks that came on board, so don't forget, if you can, go ahead and do that poll question. I'm going to give it about probably 15 more seconds, and then I'll show the results and everything to everybody. Also, if you have questions, please send them through the question module, and the Elire team will be happy to answer any questions that have come through. So at this point in time, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll, share it out to you guys. So again, we were asking what version of PeopleSoft are you currently using. 38% say pre-9.2 version, 19% say currently upgrading to 9.2, and 43% say 9.2. So I'm going to go hide that and give it back over to the Elire team here in just a second. Just a reminder, I know I saw a few more folks. If you have questions, please submit them through the question module. We'll answer any questions that have come through. So at this point in time, I'm going to turn over Choosing the Right Path, PeopleSoft 9.2 versus the Cloud, to Richard Furt with Elire.
Thank you very much, Christina, and welcome everybody. We're excited to talk to you today about this topic, about choosing the right path. It looks like just under 40% of you might be actually facing this decision: do I upgrade or do I migrate to the cloud? And then the remainder of you who are already upgraded or are in the middle of an upgrade, I'm sure will be very interested in understanding how to do that upgrade successfully and be ready for continuous delivery. But the topics we'll be covering today, as you can see, in a minute we'll do formal introductions, but then I'll be talking to you about our strategic roadmap. How do you make that decision about upgrade versus cloud? One of my peers, Valentine, will be talking to you about PeopleSoft 9.2 and continuous delivery, and then one of our founding partners, Grant, will be talking to you about Oracle Cloud, and we'll make sure we have plenty of time for Q&A. So that's our agenda, and what we'll do is we'll start off there with formal introductions. So again, my name is Richard Merrill, and I'm an associate partner here at Elire. I run our strategic advisory services practice, and I have some more information to talk to you about in a few minutes about that practice, but I'll hand it over to Valentine, who can introduce himself.
Thank you, Richard. Valentine Chodoro. I've been with Elire for almost 7 months now. Focus on testing, test management, and of course PeopleSoft Test Framework, which aligns, of course, with continuous delivery. And previously, I was worked for Oracle and worked for some of the development areas with the PeopleSoft product.
And then this is Grant Bernardi. As it says, I'm one of the founding partners of Elire. I've been working in the PeopleSoft space, specifically more in the financials area, for the past 20 years, and now have been tasked with our cloud practice. So I've been working in cloud, basically Oracle, ERP and HCM cloud, with a little bit of CX for about the last 3 years. So really forming our cloud practice, working with us on our strategy for cloud, and then also honing some of our cloud methodology and implementation practices. Thanks, Richard.
All right. Thank you. And I guess I should say I've been working in the strategy and process improvement space for now over 20 years. But just a few more introduction slides. First, about Elire. For those who don't know, we were established back in 2005 and are now celebrating our 11th year in business with a large number of clients we've worked with over the years, including over 30 Fortune 500 clients and a large number of financial services clients. And really what we focus on is really partnering with those clients to help them really efficiently implement, integrate, and upgrade software investments. And we know those critical investments for our clients, so the ERP investments in many cases, and making that decision between 9-2 or going to the cloud is something many of you are facing. And because of that, we really want to make sure and work with our clients that we're providing strategic guidance so that they can make the right decision, and when they make that decision, that they can do so and implement in a way that's going to really unlock the true potential of the software, of course with a deep commitment to excellence and quality all along the way. And as we just talked about, we have various practice areas at Elire. My practice area is Strategic Advisory Services. Valentin is from our Continuous Delivery practice, and of course Grant from Cloud Services. And on the next slide, just sort of one final introduction slide before we get going. As you can see, we have a large range of industries we've worked with over the years, lots of financial service clients, higher education, government, energy, consumer products, really all across the board in terms of industries. And then I think it's important to point out that we work with a lot of global companies as well as like a Prologis or very small companies or small local city governments. And many of these clients we've helped to make this decision about, do I upgrade or do I migrate to the cloud? And many of them we've helped develop strategic roadmaps for other reasons. ITC is a great example of a large energy client in the Midwest who we helped make this decision that we're going to be talking to you today about. And so that's good, I think, for introduction. So let's get into the strategic roadmap itself. And I'll be taking you through this section of the webinar. And as I mentioned, I have just a few points about our practice area, Strategic Advisory Services. So as you can see, we have several service offerings helping companies make these types of strategic decisions. Once those decisions are made, how do you improve your business processes, or potentially that decision might involve outsourcing and vendor management, or and of course working with all of you in terms of change enablement and user adoption. But today we're really focusing on our success delivered strategic roadmap, which has been used for many years successfully across many clients. And that methodology, as you can see, is really made up of 5 major steps. And the methodology is designed to be very structured and to give you a framework for making these tough decisions. But we've also, because the methodology is based on a number of tools, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute, we can plug and play different tools depending upon your individual needs, your individual industry, etc. And so we really pride ourselves on the ability to flex the methodology to specific needs, but always staying within a structured framework that gives guidance. And so I'll just do a quick overview on this slide of these steps, and then we'll do a deep dive. But it always starts with mobilization, making sure everyone is on board, understands the methodology, that we know what processes are in scope, whether it's HCM or financials. What are we talking about, and who are the key players? And for the key players, we use our RACI accelerator tool, which really helps us understand who, and RACI stands for who's responsible or accountable or consulted or informed in those various process areas. And what we have found time and time again is identifying the right people up front goes a long way in terms of long-term acceptance of the decision and acceptance of the change. And then, of course, in mobilization, we also will work with you about developing some decision parameters that we'll use later on in analysis and solutions, and I have more to tell you about that in a minute. But we then move through the other steps, and such as the disconnect assessment, where we understand how the work is done today, what's working, what's not working. We can do some listening tours to understand user preferences, to understand requirements, and then, of course, review and validate all of this information. We find that this is a short step, but a critical step to make sure we are carrying everyone along the way, along the decision path, so that when we have finished, everyone is on board with whatever the final analysis and solution that has been recommended. And of course, that recommendation comes with a roadmap and a strong business case. But let's dive into a few of these buckets. So during the disconnect assessment, which is that second major phase. As I mentioned, we really focus on how is the work done today. And one of the ways we do that is documenting it very quickly and very efficiently in some facilitated working sessions. And in really a matter of 2 or 3 weeks, we can document a large number of processes and how the work is done today using 2 different tools. We have 2 examples here. One is a SciPoc on the left, which is sort of a high-level one-page process map, and then or a more detailed traditional swim lane or cross-functional process map, which is on the right. And that's a great example of how we can plug and play different tools depending upon the needs of your individual company or what documentation you already have in place. And if you do have documentation in place, that's fantastic. We're used to using that and working with that and leveraging it. But once we understand how the work is done, we focus on 2 other key areas. What are the disconnects? And disconnects are really pain points. Those are things that get in the way of your users, your business, getting work done efficiently or effectively. And obviously, if you're looking to upgrade, you're looking to solve those problems. You're looking to alleviate those disconnects. If you're migrating to the cloud, you're looking to do the same thing. Just if you don't mind going back 1 slide real quick, sorry about that. And the other thing we do real quickly is identify process attributes. We think it's critical to know audit points, reports, interfaces, policies, etc., so that we can feed all of that into detailed design. And then next slide, Christina, thanks. As part of that, though, we do listening tours because we think it's important to understand the needs of key stakeholders. What are their usability preferences? Are you a company, do you have a user base that plans to do a lot of mobile approvals, for example? What are the interface requirements? What are other requirements, and confirming those requirements out of the process maps? And doing these listening tours, which can be made up of different surveys, it can be made up of one-on-one conversations, it can be made up of facilitated working sessions. Again, an example of how we plug and play different tools to meet your needs. We feel it's a great opportunity to really continue that change management conversation. And then on the, all of this, of course, is feeding into analysis and solutions. And as I mentioned, during mobilization, we will work with you to determine what decision parameters are right for you. Because at the end of the day, you want to choose a solution, whether it's upgrade or migrate to cloud, that's going to resolve your disconnects. You also want to choose a solution that meets certain criteria, such as cost or data conversion, ability to meet security and risk concerns, usability requirements, maybe interfaces. So we'll work with you regarding what decision parameters are important to you. We know some companies have very big concerns around security, and some companies have lesser concerns. So that's an example of how we can plug or play a different decision parameter based upon your needs. But basically what we do is during the project, we will identify these parameters and then show you the difference between 9.2 and the cloud. What is the difference for interfaces, the difference for cost, the difference for data conversion, the difference for training requirements, and then summarize all of that into a one-page, easy-to-share document so that you can make a decision. And once that decision is made, give you the roadmap for how to achieve that desired future state, as well as the associated business case. And so that's really just a quick overview of our 5-step methodology, again, designed to help you understand how the work is done today and whether you should look to upgrading to 9.2 or migrate to the cloud. Now, if you decide to upgrade to 9.2, oh, actually, I think we're going to open up to a survey question before I hand it over to the next speaker. So I'll throw it back to you, Christina.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And I actually just launched that survey question for everybody to see, could your organization benefit from a strategic IT roadmap? Yes, no, or unsure. So I'll open it up for about 30 seconds or so. I'm kind of watching the sidebar here to see, and then I will show it back to everybody and read it out to everybody. So It's like, let's give it another 10 seconds here. All right, so there's still several folks doing it, so I'll give it another couple seconds here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. Looks like we've got several folks finishing here. So I'm going to share it to you guys. So again, the question is, could your organization benefit from a strategic IT roadmap? 45% of you guys said yes, 18% said no, and 37% said unsure. Richard, I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, thank you. So I realize some of you may be unsure because we did see a high percentage of you have already made the decision to upgrade and have already upgraded or are in the middle of that. So the ability to benefit from the roadmap may be a little less valuable to you if you've already made that decision. Now, if you've already upgraded or if you are on that path, then I think this next section will be very important to you as I throw it over to Valentine to talk to you about PeopleSoft Continuous Delivery.
Yep. Thank you, Richard. Hello, everybody. So I'll discuss continuous delivery and just piggybacking off what Richard said. If you do choose to upgrade with 9.2, and I saw from the initial polling question that we had, many of you are still pre-9.2 upgrade, and it is a great time to start thinking about continuous delivery since the model has changed so much since maybe upgrades you've been in the past between 9.0 and 9.1, where you had these huge, massive upgrades that took many, many months and lots of resources. And of course, I'm sure most of you have heard the new pump cycles, smaller upgrades more rapidly. And no matter where you are, if you pre-upgrade during a 9.2 upgrade right now or post-upgrade, the continuous delivery model that we have and roadmaps can really assist you with that process. And a few points on this: if you are pre-9.2, you can start planning that, analyzing your families. We have a lot of tools that can help you analyze what customizations you have in your system, try to put them into buckets, see if there's any functionality out there that can replace some of these customizations, start building up PTF scripts, since that is a great tool that came out several versions ago, so that you can automate some of these processes when it comes to your pump cycles and continuous delivery. Next slide. So the legacy model, as many of you know, every 3 to 5 years you would have these large releases. You could have several cycles of testing that took like a month or two. If you had a couple, you have fit gap sessions beforehand, all your retrofitting, post-go live support. So that's completely changed. You could apply bundles and patches here and there, but it was really kind of an old and difficult process. And of course that has changed. If we go to the next slide. To this new model. This actually doesn't even show how many releases of pump images come out per year. This actually just does 2 or 3 per year, and there's about 6 to 7 that are actually released. But you can see in this graph that you no longer have these massive upgrades, just smaller ones. And of course, they're selected. You can pick and choose what you want out of each pump image. If there's bug fixes that are specific to you, you can extract those. If there's new functionality that can really help you out, you can grab that. But of course, when you do increase the number of upgrades, you always want to be able to test during each one of these, and that's one of our core tools within our continuous delivery is automation of testing. So of course, with 9.2, once those that are pre-9.2 upgrade to it, you have these images that, of course, delivered 6 to 7 times per year, like I mentioned. They will include new features, so at least 3 to 4 images per year will include new features and functionality, and of course bug fixes will be included in every single release, and you can pick and choose. And there's still a lot of development within Oracle PeopleSoft. They're still putting a lot of effort into it, and you can kind of see that with all the new tools that come out. PTF itself, the POM, the change assistant, they really try to help you out. Of course, the fluid is there, the responsiveness of the new window, so you can take it mobile if you need to. Redesigned to keep up with all the other ERP systems out there, so it's still and will be a fantastic tool for the future. Next slide. So some of the terminology, I kind of threw it around. I did continuous delivery, and of course that's however you want to adapt it. If you want to do just the yearly catch-ups, or you would like to do it several times per year, or just picking out the bug fixes. It is all based on each customer's needs. Selective adoption, that's really picking and choosing what you want out of each POM image. And of course, full adoption, if you are a vanilla client, don't have any customizations, you can actually start applying your POM images as soon as they come out, do some testing with PTF, and you can run with it. Next slide. So adoption rate, these are some of the critical things that we focus on with our continuous delivery model. Of course, reduction of customization, that's huge, since that will make it much easier to do your retrofitting each time you apply your POM image to your dev environments. But we also can assist with gathering and categorizing and cataloging your customizations or bolt-ons, integrations, whatever be in your system. We can help you to analyze that. We can look and do some fit gap sessions to kind of get an idea and understanding if there's new functionality, can offset some of these customizations, or if we can move some of these customizations to bolt-ons to make it easier each time you apply your POMs. And of course, the other very, very important is, are you actually testing your system, the full scale of your system? There's some reports that actually have come out that are actually tied to PTF that can help you when you incorporate some usage monitor tools to really gauge what is actually being used in your production system. Are we actually testing that in our test environments during our cycles? So we can help you to gather that information so you can have accurate testing scripts and data. So there's a lot of transactional data that tools like PTF can help you with that are perfect and very critical to the continuous delivery roadmap. And of course, execution time, since you will have so many more test cycles per year, it is important to automate and have an automated testing tool like PTF to assist you with that. Next slide, please. Okay, and this is our roadmap. Of course, we have our planning with, like I mentioned, some of those fit gap sessions to kind of get an understanding. We'll stage and build the environments for you with those new POM images. The testing, which we'll focus on after the next polling question. There's a lot of test automation and a lot of tools that Elire has developed in-house and that PeopleSoft brings to the table that can really drive down the time and cost of that testing cycle. Of course, you have your acceptance and your deployment. It is very similar to, of course, our upgrade roadmap, and of course, this cycle repeats with every single POM application that you do and complete. Okay, and this will be 3.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that survey here, Valentine. Hold on 1 second here. So the survey that says is, does your organization currently have a continuous delivery model approach? And if so, how often do you apply POM update images? So the answers are every 6 months, annually, as Oracle releases new images, or we do not have a continuous delivery model approach. And I'll give it here another about 10 to 15 seconds. It looks like we maybe have everybody that's done it, so I'm going to go ahead and close the poll, and I'll share it back out to the audience. So again, the question is, does your organization currently have a continuous delivery model approach? And if so, how often do you plan to apply POM updates images? Every 6 months got 12%, 6% said annually, 18% says as Oracle releases new images, and 65% say we do not currently have a continuous delivery model approach. Turn it back over to you guys.
Thank you, Christine. Appreciate it. And yeah, the 65%, if you do not have a continuous delivery approach, we can definitely help you out with that. It's kind of a daunting task and a brand new framework, so that is something that can help. And one of the key things, which I'll cover next very quickly, that we see and we have utilized in several clients for their continuous delivery is the PeopleSoft Test Framework. It's an automated tool that comes pre-delivered and free with People Tools 851 and newer. And this graphic you've probably seen before. It's kind of the flow of downloading image from local support, standing it up, choosing what bug fixes and functionality you would like from that, creating your change package, and of course applying it to one or many environments. And the PeopleSoft test framework, PTF for short, can actually be injected in multiple places. And even before you apply all these changes to your dev environment, you can actually start gathering information with PTF's help to what new bug fixes will affect my test scripts, how they affect my system right now. Do I have to record new tests because I'm bringing in new functionality? So it preps you when you do apply your changes, and then your dev environment is ready to be tested with those new PTF test scripts. But before we get into more of those details, the framework itself was introduced in tools 851, like I mentioned. That was pretty much the beta version of the tool. 852 and newer, it's a fantastic and very stable tool, and it's evolved over the years. And it's actually used internally within Oracle PeopleSoft as they're doing their development. Before 9.2, when GA, they used 55,000 scripts to test all of PeopleSoft, and now they'll actually use PTF with every POM image. They have their scripts that they run, and they test the system before they make it generally available. Of course, at its core, it is a functional application testing tool, so everything from the sign-on page through fluid navigation or classic navigation, even with responsive themes, so you can the tool itself can actually simulate different size screens, and of course that will give you different content, and it's able to simulate and test the system. But it is purely a simulation tool based on the user, so it'll actually bring up the browser and will simulate as if a real person was using the cursor and entering values into the field. It captures your full process based on how you do your business process. Even if you have customizations or you do, your processing a slightly different way than what the vanilla business process maps state, once you record your scripts, they will be stored in your database, and they'll be the way you do your process. The number of test scripts that can be executed greatly increases. You can have hundreds, if not thousands, of data combinations, which are called test cases in PTF, that are applied to a single test script. So, for example, if you have an e-procurement requisition, instead of in manual testing, doing 10, 20 requisitions to make sure different accounting lines where different items were from the catalog, here you can literally test every single data combination for a given component, every single item with every single combo code, with multiple lines, negative testing, whatever it be, it's able to simulate. And of course, the accuracy of your testing can greatly increase. When you run 100 scripts during this PUM upgrade, they all work. You go live, everything's okay. You know with certain certainty if you use the same 100 in the next apply, they all go green, then there's that consistency with the testing. If it's automated, it's all inside the database table. That's where all the data is stored. So it's very easy to manipulate and manage. Validation testing, and of course the big one is the reduction in testing time. And these scripts can be executed overnight. I've had clients that will just trigger them on Thursday or Friday, and they come Monday morning, and I'll just look at the results and see what failed and what has passed and do some reporting on that. So big time savings, which is of course key to continuous delivery. At its core, it is a record and playback tool. So what that means is you'll have a piece of software. It will attach to a browser. You click the record button on a little mobile window that floats over it, and then you'll just interact with your PeopleSoft application from the sign-on page exactly how they're used to. So you sign in, navigate, go to component, search for something, manipulate fields, process the page, and then you press stop. It will give you a test script showing you exactly what you did. You have the ability to manipulate it, put in some logic, some conditional statements. You can inject queries into it to feed the data for data staging. And then, of course, by executing it, it will perform the exact same actions by opening per browser and actually using the cursor to interact with that page exactly as you did during the recording. So record and playback tool with, of course, manipulation in the middle, depending on how you want it to play back. And there's some things that are specific to PTF that you will not find anywhere else. Of course, it's been designed from PeopleSoft. It works incredibly with the PeopleSoft application. It can do things that no other testing tool can do with grid and scroll regions. With fluid testing, it's able to identify if it's in a fluid navigation, if it's using the tiles. If you've gone to Classic, it's just built for it, and they test with it. So if something breaks when they're testing, they're going to probably go fix it and retest it in PTF. So why not use the tool that PeopleSoft Development uses themselves for testing purposes. On top of that, of course, when you look at the script itself, which is, it's not a free form, it's all row-based, kind of like Excel, the references in that script are all one-to-one what you see in App Designer. So the way that you see a field on there on PTF script is exactly, if you open up App Designer, that's how it will be on a record. Page names, menu names, component names, they're one-to-one relationship with App Designer, so it's built to be interconnected. And of course, you can do some external things outside of application testing. You can run your data mover scripts, you can verify your queries, and it even has internal functions that will run your processes. You just get the process name, go ahead and run it for you. Goes to process monitor, it'll actually refresh automatically until it sees if you're negative testing or positive testing for success or posted or not posted. Okay. And of course, all the logs, including the test and test scripts, are stored in that database. So they are App Designer managed projects. You can just insert definition to project and move from environment to environment, or just manipulate them whenever way you want. And PTF itself is very good at unit testing. Of course, you can run one-off scripts. For integration testing, it is fantastic since you can pass variables from one test to another, so you can shell or batch all the tests within an end-to-end, press play, and it'll execute one. If it generates some kind of ID off a sequence, it'll pass that to the next test, and the next test, and so on until you test the entire business process. Okay, so I'll discuss the integration. The tool itself, it's a standalone. It doesn't even have to be installed with the rest of the People tools. It's standalone. You can install it on your own workstation or on the server or your own VM, communicate with the browser like I mentioned, and there's some small configuration that needs to be completed in Integration Broker, but it uses an SSL connection to communicate, for authentication, and then for pushing data back and forth to the database. Of course, I've discussed the integration between People tools on that lower left-hand icon. And then in terms of security, if you do use data that's pushed down from production, it's all going to be stored in the database. It's not actually stored on the client. So it's nice and secure, just like the rest of your data. Okay. Next slide, please. So there's two reports that I'll cover, and that will actually complete my section. This one has actually become a very, very important report. It's a coverage report on your test scripts. And this actually ties back to the PUM images. So you say, for example, you have a PUM image that you want to apply, image 20. It has new functionality in there or some bug fixes. You would run this report against that PUM image with all your test scripts, and what it will give you is a coverage if you have a test script for that new functionality or bug fix. So actually in the little printout that you see here, you'll see that there's no coverage for those new pages or people code. And then a little further down, you'll see that instructors is covered by the new changes that are coming in, field and page and record changes looks like at the bottom. So it helps to give you kind of a fit gap of, do I have a test for this? What do I need to record a test for so that it covers this new functionality that I'm bringing in? In conjunction, you can actually turn on Usage Monitor in your production environment, and that's going to be the graphic on the top right, which we talk about. You can turn on Usage Monitor in production, grab some data for a month or two, bring it down to your test or dev environment, and then you can actually correlate all your test scripts against actually what's being used in your system, find the gap there, analyze it, record some new tests, so you're retesting everything that is being used in your production environment, and then as these new PUM images come through with continuous delivery, we can help you analyze the gaps of testing there. So no longer are you just doing general testing, you're actually starting to do testing based on real usage in your production environment with automated tests that will execute the same way every single time. And then, of course, you incorporate these new PUM images that are brought in the green circle, and you try to figure out the gap there. So it's a fantastic report. It's becoming more and more important with each CDM cycle that we complete for clients. And then the last slide I'll talk about is our experience. So we've been there since PTF came out. Initially, we've done over 45 implementations of PTF that span all of the PeopleSoft product lines. We've seen it all. We've also built our own kind of bolt-on tools. I wouldn't even call it bolt-on. They're just reports and high-level analytics, fluid tiles, and our own methodology to help our customers. If it's somebody who doesn't necessarily going to be testing with PTF but would like to see the results, there is a page that we can build for them, or reports or pagelets, or even tiles that are specific to if they just want to see the high-level recording. For those that are recording and actually developing scripts, we have our own methodology of how to do that so that we remove redundancy. We actually bring down the number of scripts that are executed in the system from several thousand to several hundred, while still retaining a lot of the meat in each script. We just make it more robust and be able to do more for a fewer number. We feel that's more efficient of a way to develop. So it's a fantastic tool. It's been used at, personally, I've seen it in 45 locations, and I've heard of several hundred other clients that are utilizing it with great success. Even if you utilize it at a small scale, it's still an incredible tool. It can save you tons of time. And of course, it's strategic to a continuous delivery if you do choose to go to night 2, or of course, you've already on night 2. So with that, I'll turn it to Christine, who is going to do survey question number 4.
Thank you very much. And I actually just launched question number 4 here. It says, what's your organization's experience with PeopleSoft Test Framework? Use it as much as we can, would like to use it in the future, or no plans to use it. Again, I'll give it probably about 10 to 15 seconds here, and just kind of watch where we stand. Right now, it seems like just a lot of folks are saying that they would like to use it in the future. I'm going to give it a couple more seconds, and I'll release the final results here. Where about 90% of the folks have actually answered. So, and let's see, we'll go ahead and close it and share that back to you guys. Again, the question is, what is your organization's experience with PeopleSoft Test Framework? 10% says use it as much as we can, 83% say we would like to use it in the future, and 7% says no plans to use it. And I'll turn it back over to Elire.
All right, thank you, Christina. So now we're going to go into migrating to Oracle Cloud. And what we're going to be looking at here is how people are using cloud, and then some of the implementation best practices. We actually have another follow-up webinar that we're going to be doing that's going to be specifically on cloud and how people are using it. That's getting into a little more detail. So now we're just going to kind of touch on it. And one of the things most people aren't asking, but users are telling us, is, why are users migrating to the cloud? And really what we're looking to do is modernize the business practices for a digital design. And some of the things we're seeing is that cloud is more engaging. It's just actually easier to use. That we're looking and seeing more mobile. So users have been asking for mobile for a long time, and the pages are already built and ready to use on mobile devices. It's more collaborative. Obviously, social media is big right now, especially in the millennials. So we're seeing a lot more collaboration with some of the interaction with social. And then providing more insights, being able to do easier reporting, being able to see data analytic format at your fingertips, being able to change the parameters and make some of those things happen. So that's why the users are migrating. But what is the path? What's a practical path that fits your business? So obviously this is a different answer for different organizations. And here's what we're seeing across industries. So one of them is basically the rip and replace method. It's modernizing your enterprise by implementing Oracle EPM, CX, or ERP Cloud. It's the full implementation. We're also seeing people doing it in subsidiaries, so either a new acquisition or a spin-off or a situation where you're looking at a company and trying to understand what their needs are from a technology standpoint, using a subsidiary model where you may be able to use a lot more standardized business processes working well as well. And then the coexist. We're actually seeing more of this, the coexist on specific functions. So looking for Financial Accounting Hub, Reporting Cloud Service, or Expenses, or one of the other modules that can be more of a standalone in a coexistence model. So what we're going to do is look at a couple different avenues that people have gone down and what customers are doing. And one of those is the total implementation, so modernizing your enterprise. And a good example of that is just the HCM employee lifecycle. It's a very user-centered design. It eliminates manual entries and empowers the lifecycle management data that elements for a mobile workforce. So a mobile workforce obviously benefits from this. Simplicity means it's increased productivity and tasks that are streamlined and easy, accessible, and intuitive, and are completed more quickly, so they can be done online and remotely, and done with smaller steps and easier to use interface. And then you can actually configure and extend the user experience to the best to map your company's identity and fit your business process. So there's agility here for each of the individual organizations to be able to do it tailored to how they have the HCM employee lifecycle experience. So this is an example of a customer is on an older version of their on-premise solution and either need a double upgrade. I mean, we're saying double upgrade, but this could just be an upgrade as well. They want to do either that or a re-implementation, or they want to move entirely to the cloud. So they're really analyzing this. The customer is looking to modernize their on-premise solution. Upgrading or re-implementing their on-premise solution is more expensive and will still be out of date in just a few years. And the solution for this is the customer decides to move their entire suite to the cloud. And some of the benefits of this are lower upfront costs, lower operating and maintenance costs, faster implementations, scalability and agility, improved accessibility, a more modernized application, and then rapid updates to some of their existing infrastructure. So definitely some benefits you can see by a business moving to the cloud. The next one we're looking at is a coexist model. It's more of an ultra-efficient expense entry. So many of you may be aware or have seen that the expense entry for cloud actually has some pretty cool features. Once again, it's delivered mobile. You can use your camera built into your smartphone to scan your receipts and take pictures and actually upload those directly into the application. You can actually use voice to describe your expense, and it will translate your voice to your reason for that expense. And then you can use calendaring to either set notices or to go forward with submitting expense reports. And in this example, we have a customer that has an on-premise solution, and they are looking to include cloud expenses. So the customer might need a new expenses product or unhappy with their current third-party solution, or actually maybe their third-party solution has actually just become too expensive. Adapt to the always-on-the-go mobile workforce with cloud mobile expenses that allows you to record expenses using smartphones, capture photos, receipts, and use voice to record for your expenses. Another thing that is very helpful, it enforces enterprise-wide policies for travel and expenses with proactive metrics. It automated the audit process and then does an analysis on the expense trends and sends you reports for all of that. And this can actually integrate in the coexistence model to your on-premise AP and optionally can integrate to your GL. So there is integration points built into the system to be able to go back to on-premise. In a coexistence model, you could be using cloud expenses and then either Oracle EBS or a PeopleSoft AP and GL. The next one we're looking at is Oracle Accounting Hub. I believe they're now calling this Financial Accounting Hub Reporting Cloud Service. I didn't have enough real estate on this slide for all those words. So what we're looking at here is really a multi-dimensional reporting and analytics tool that works with EBS and PeopleSoft General Ledger. It gives you dashboards, self-service reporting, multi-dimensional S-based analytics. It's basically taking what would be an S-based cube and embedding it into your application for reporting, but something that happens in the cloud rather than something that happens on-premise. And what we're looking at as an example here is an on-premise customer who wants to use GL reporting, Financial Accounting Hub, for integration reporting solution for both acquisitions, related, and advanced reporting needs. And this can be any advanced reporting needs. Customers are using this for new lease administration requirements. They're using it for new IFRS requirements. If you have some questions about your GAAP reporting, but it basically gives you all of that at the same time, as well as some of the local statutory requirements. It retains current financial systems, can coexist with the cloud financials, so it isn't a whole rip and replace. You're actually just doing the reporting portion of it. And then perform sophisticated reporting and analytics with a multidimensional environment. And this is something that in the past would take months of implementation and a lot of money to implement. Now it's an integrated platform. So it really reduces that integration cost and the dependence on the IT staff. So we're moving along to implementation best practices. What happened? Hey guys, we actually lost internet connection here, and I think it's reestablished. Can those who are the moderators just verify that you can see us?
Yep, we can see implementation best practices and still hear you, Grant. You're good to go.
Okay, good. I was getting worried. I didn't want to get lost in the clouds here. All right, so implementation approach. So some of the key strategies for this are lead with implementation best practices, utilize configuration best practices, and leverage cloud operational best practices. So we're going to get into these three areas. We're going to do it lightly today, and then on a subsequent presentation, we're going to get into a little bit more depth. But I think one of the things that people need to understand is you need to take a different approach when you're looking at cloud. The traditional approach has been a requirements-driven waterfall approach that has lots of customizations and big bang implementations. And this is what we've been doing, at least this is what I've been doing for about the past 20 years. The next step on this is more of looking at a cloud approach. It's solution-driven. It's a templated approach. You need to adapt your business processes. And then also you need to look at maybe bringing some incremental value up. That can be coexistence, or that can be just incremental value. Can also be more of an iterative approach to your implementation. So looking at a methodology, and this is similar to a waterfall method, but in our build phase, and we'll get into more detail of that, we actually have an iterative approach that allows us to design, build, test, and deploy in a very quick manner. So it's a 5-step approach, and what it allows you to do is have a little bit more agility in your implementation. So looking at the next slide, best practices for Oracle implementation. When we think about this, we need to think about an interactive approach. We want to look at quick wins and learning during the implementation. That actually helps us shorten the cycle for this implementation. Real-time design using composers and some formal requirements, making those more historical. So requirements aren't quite as formal. We're looking at a process that already exists, and we have some tools that can help us with more real-time design. And this is literally leading to more solution-driven versus requirements-driven approach. We actually don't even call them requirement sessions. We call them solution sessions because we're not just looking at requirements. We're looking at solutions and having our business process match what's happening on the actual software. There are no gaps in a public cloud solution, so we really need to look at the processes that we're implementing and have those match what's there. There is opportunity to build extensions, but I think we're trying to reduce those as much as possible. And then looking at more of a prototyping and modeling approach, going live with some functionality and then adding incremental value to it after it's live. And one of the things we want to make sure that people understand and mention is when you're looking at testing or you're looking at going through the process, it has at least a 3-iteration solution to max out your validation and knowledge transfer. So a first iteration, when you're doing your data conversions and testing, is really just preliminary, making sure things are working, making sure you're getting all your data, making sure you resolved any of your issues. The next iteration is more of a SIT testing, so a system integration test in our past world, where we're looking at key variations and exceptions. And then the last one is more of a parallel test, where we're validating design, working on knowledge transfer, and making sure everybody understands the approach. So it is really a 3-step process or a 3-iteration process when you're looking at going live on a cloud solution. So best practice in data conversion. This is actually a big area when you look at cloud. So you need to start your data conversion as soon as possible because it will take longer. You're bringing something over from either PeopleSoft, Oracle EBS, or another third-party solution to bring that stuff into the cloud. Implementation partners should lead on this. And the reason we say this is because now we've done it a few times. So we actually have the tools to help you make this easier and faster and know the tables and locations of where your data is. So we can accelerate this process for you to make your life easier. And then, once again, plan on those 3 iterations of data conversion. Plan for an environment refresh. Take Oracle scheduling limitations into account. You want to make sure that you're looking ahead and have this stuff on your schedule and make sure Oracle is aware of what's happening and when it's happening so that we can take an environment refresh and make that happen on our timeline rather than on someone else's timeline. And then for project management, a lot of these are co-located projects, so require additional project management and oversight. So a lot of times we're actually remotely helping you or remotely doing this implementation, and we're on site maybe beginning, middle, and end, but not necessarily the whole time. So that co-location takes some coordination. The iterative approach requires greater project coordination and greater detail. We need to know when things are happening, why things are happening, who's doing them, what's going on. So project management needs to be aware of that. And then clearly define implementation scope, both product and project, is obviously important because we now want to know everything that's going in each of those iterations. And then make sure you have a knowledge transfer plan. We want to make sure that people are coming up to speed. There's a less IT involvement in projects like this, so there is a more onus on the business to understand what's happening, the timelines, and work with the business to make sure things are successful. We need to learn to appreciate the shared support model, and I think this is happening across the board in a lot of Oracle applications. And it's becoming easier, and it's becoming, I wouldn't say more fun, but it's becoming easier and fun. How's that? The shared support means shared responsibility across us, our IT department, and Oracle. Greater requirements for planning and coordination, so we want to make sure we understand what those are and have that timeline in place. And then understand how Oracle's shared support model fits within the customer's tiered support model. When is it happening? How is it going to look? The next thing is flexible scheduling of maintenance. Monthly updates, cumulative required. So you are going to be taking on everything, and we need to understand exactly how you're going to be doing that. We actually have the ability to delay things depending on where we're at, but we can't really delay past 60 to 90 days when we're taking on new information or a new update to our application. Plan for an upgrade to happen during your implementation. This is actually required so they can make sure that you can do this and plan for that in testing. And Oracle provides a level of flexibility regarding when that upgrade will occur. Performance optimization. Understand and utilize the software browser certified for your Oracle Cloud ERP. So it's good to make sure that whether you're, whether you're Firefox or whether you're Chrome or if you're using a Microsoft product, you make sure you're using the correct one. Request an environment resizing before your end user testing and training. So after you have all your data in there and all your users in there, make sure that your environment is sized appropriately and they can help you with that. And keep in mind that not always is an exact fit. There is a little bit, as you go forward, there could be a little bit of a growing pain in your first close or in your first payroll. So make sure that you understand that as you're running through this, you want to make sure that it's sized appropriately on a go-forward basis. All right, I believe survey question number 5 is next.
That is correct, and I'm actually launching survey number 5, as well as just going to give everybody a reminder that if you have questions, please submit them through the question module. We'll take some time to answer any questions that have come through. So the poll that is launched is, does your company have a cloud versus on-premise technology plan? So it's moving to the cloud, hybrid model, or stay on-premise. All right, so as that is going on for the Elire team, it looks like we have a couple of questions that have come through here. So one of the attendees gets that on the application side, there are no more new versions, so continuous delivery model makes sense. But however, on the tool side, there are new versions being delivered which have prereqs. Are there still needed upgrades that are outside of the continuous delivery model, in your all's opinion?
Hey, Valentine, do you want to answer that or you want me to?
Go ahead, Grant.
Yeah, so just as a general rule, we include the tools upgrades in our continuous delivery model as part of the process. And the reason for that is we want to understand the new compliance for what Oracle is delivering, and then what are the new features, functionality that are added as part of each tools upgrade, whether that be increased PTF functionality, fluid UI functionality, some of the compatibility with on-premise servers. So we do include the tools as a part of continuous delivery, how we want to uptake, what we want to do, and then, and I know a lot of our customers are doing this, but we're also doing this, is making sure that we have technical people that are experts on what's coming up so they can come in and help you understand what's coming in the latest version of tools, when we think it's coming out, because I know sometimes we think it's coming out and it's delayed a bit, and then what is going to be the compatibility with some of the older or newer versions of software that you're using along with that.
Great, thank you very much, Grant. So I just closed the poll, and the poll questions is, does your company have a cloud versus on-premise technology plan? 20% says move to the cloud, 36% says hybrid model, and 44% say they're staying on-premise. Just another reminder that if you have any questions, please submit them through the question module, and we'll answer them. Let's see. Can you guys talk about some of the common roadblocks on the road to the cloud that you guys have seen?
Richard, do you want to take that one or do you want me to?
I can take part of it and then throw it over to you. I think some of the common roadblocks we've seen are from a upfront decision-making point of view, is just getting your hands around which is the right solution for me, and how does that impact me from a training, a change management? What do my integrations look like? What's my data conversion going to look like? How do I wrap my hands around all of those individual parameters? And I think part of our roadmap methodology helps you do that. I think the other big block I see, before I throw it back to Grant, is pulling together a business case. You know, when obviously whether you upgrade or migrate to the cloud, investment is required, but investment in the cloud is going to feel different and look different, and require, you know, potential changes to hardware, etc. So having a strong business case is another roadblock we've often seen, which I think one of the benefits of the roadmap is that we can help make that decision and give you that roadmap. From a technology and the actual migration itself, I can throw it over to Grant for roadblocks he has seen.
Yeah, Richard, thanks. I mean, I think I see things falling into two categories: internal roadblocks and then external roadblocks. So the internal roadblocks we're seeing are internal modernization, budgetary, and then really getting your enterprise or your business ready for a cloud-delivered solution. Some customers are embracing it and moving as fast as they can towards it, and some customers, just with compliance and regulatory and maybe some fear of security, are taking a more wait-and-see approach. On the external side, it's the application itself. You really need to understand how it's going to fit into your organization, and that no matter how much work you do, there's going to be gaps or solutions that you're going to be waiting on. So whether that be an integration that you're not going to have going forward, or a piece of functionality that you know is coming out in 6 to 12 months, but you don't have it today, the external pressures on the application. So making sure that it does, maybe 80 to 90% of what you want to do, but understanding that 10 to 20% is coming later, and that when that's going to be there, and understanding that roadmap are kind of the external pressures that we're seeing with cloud.
Great, thank you guys very much. Is there a direct migration path of all on-premise modules to cloud modules?
No. I will elaborate on that. I just thought I'd say no, it'd be funny. So what we're working on and how it makes it easier is we actually have developed, and a lot of other firms, it's not just Elire, but it's a lot of the other firms out there, have developed migrations to bring the data directly from Oracle EBS or directly from PeopleSoft into the cloud. So we are building those as a part of our implementation methodology to make our customers transition easier. The EBS stuff has actually been available a little bit longer than the PeopleSoft stuff, but now that those have been used and tested, it is giving you a better roadmap and an easier transition, but it isn't something where it's direct, where there's something that Oracle delivers where you press a button and now zoom, you're in cloud. That doesn't exist.
Great, thank you very much. Would you have any advice for anybody that's looking to utilize PTF on maybe the first recommendations in that area?
I know Valentin was going to drop off right at the top of the hour, but I definitely can have him send an email that has a few of those. I have some of those just from my experience with working with it, and I think the two things that we're seeing, one is the setup. We've had some issues with customers that have limitations as to the ability of getting things on their laptop and how it works. And the second biggest thing is training and understanding how it works and what it can do for you. If you haven't used it before, take a training class. There's some available classroom. There's some available online. Elire offers training on this as well. But getting a better understanding of how it works and what it does, the pick it up and use it method, it'll get you started and it'll get you on a path. But a little bit of training is going to give you a lot more power and a lot more understanding of how the system works and what it can do for you. And those are kind of the two that I have seen. We can follow up with these questions with some more that Valentin has seen.
Perfect, thank you. And it looks like I just kind of have one more question, and I think you guys have been talking about it throughout the presentation and everything, but can you guys summarize maybe some recommendations or approaches on upgrading versus migration?
Well, yeah, so
go ahead, Richard.
I mean, definitely one of the approaches we recommend is to use our strategic roadmap. Whether you upgrade or migrate is a big decision, and it impacts all of your users. I mean, it goes without saying the amount of change that has to be absorbed by your organization if you're switching from one to the other. And that's why we really believe in going through that current state analysis, going through those listening tours, understanding your requirements, understanding your disconnects, and understanding those decision-making parameters, and really doing it in a very methodical approach. And I know that five-step approach I talked about feels daunting, but that's something we can get you through in, just a few short months. It's not a long, drawn-out project. But I think having an approach that your senior executives buy into is important in terms of making that decision. And then, Grant, I'm sure you have some thoughts as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I look at it, and I've been through this with several customers, and some of our customers have upgraded and stayed on-premise, and some of our customers have migrated to the cloud. And I think some of the deciding factors are your complexity, so how much customization you have, or how much of the business process that you have currently implemented is a strategic advantage for your company. So if your answer is none, then maybe your customizations can be removed and you can go back to a more vanilla business process. If your answer is some to many, and those are providing a strategic advantage for your company, then it's less likely that you're going to be able to do a direct migration to the cloud. It's more likely that you could use some of the cloud applications, or you could go into a coexistence model, and then we could look at how to migrate or build some of that stuff that you're doing in one of the architecture options from Oracle. So it really has to deal with complexity. The other complexity we're seeing is for global companies. Depending on whether you're doing HR or whether you're doing finance, the more global you are, the less likely it is that everything's going to be ready for you to go in that country when you're ready to go. So we want to analyze where you're operating, if that country has been released by Oracle, what is the business process that it may be specific to that individual country. Has that been completed as far as the business process in the application goes? So this is some of the stuff that we actually do as part of our analysis that Richard was mentioning, so you can have a complete understanding of where you're going, how long it's going to take to get there, and what it's going to look like.
Great, thank you guys both. The only other question I received is just how do you access this information? So Quest has received information from Elire. We have been recording this session. We'll post it out on the Quest content library and make sure that everybody on this call has some information to get it. It looks like Richard and Grant and stuff have posted their contact information on the screen as well. If you guys want to reach out to them directly, if you have any follow-up questions, or feel free to reach out to myself, Christina. I'm happy to connect you guys as well. For the Elire team that's still on the phone, is there anything else that you guys would like to add before we sign off?
Just one quick note. This is Richard. Well, thanks for everyone for the participation and the great questions. And we will be having a series of webinars next year doing a deep dive into each of these topics that we discussed today, more on the roadmap, more on continuous delivery in PTF, and more on cloud. And so you'll be hearing more about that next year.
That's awesome. Thank you guys very much. For the whole entire Elire team, thank you guys for jumping on the call today and giving us several different viewpoints on this. And we appreciate everything you guys do with Quest, and I hope you guys have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.